Hi there, and welcome to another session of Demystifying Spiritual Practices. And today we're going to talk about the practice of collage as spiritual practice. And you might think, what does cutting and pasting like a kindergartner have to do with connecting with God? And like any other thing that we might call a spiritual practice, it all comes down to our intentions and our heart posture. So if we are using this particular thing as a way to listen to God, put ourselves in the place where He can work and open our hearts to what He might do, then just about anything can end up being a spiritual practice for us. So before we begin anything, we need to sort of do our heart check, right? And so even if we're doing something that people consider spiritual practice, like prayer or fasting, those types of things, if we don't come to them with an attitude of surrender and humility, then they just become another thing that we do. And they end up not connecting us with God. So a couple questions that we might ask before we start any spiritual practice is, am I willing to listen to what God might reveal through this practice? Also, another question, am I doing this to connect with God, or is an attempt to earn points from God, or look spiritual, or look holy in other people's minds, or even in our own minds? So after we examine our intentions, that's when we can, come to these things with the right attitude. So back to collage. So I've tried this numerous times myself personally and with groups, and I'm always surprised at what is revealed. So, and I think this is an especially helpful practice at the end of a year, or end of a season, beginning of another, as you consider, okay, now what am I going to do going forward? What am I being called to? Those kinds of questions that we ask ourselves often at the end of a year. So, and there's a quote from Parker Palmer that suggests why we would do something like this. Is the life I'm living the same life that wants to be lived in me? Before you tell your life what you intend to do with it, as in setting intentions, resolutions, listen for what it intends to do for you. So this practice can be a way of opening ourselves up to listen to what we might be stuffing down and not paying attention to, listening to what God might be calling us to in the year or the season to come. So I think it's a really helpful practice to do before we do the New Year's resolutions, the goal setting, all that, because I think we can gain some insight that will inform our goals. So the first step would be to gather your materials, canvas or cardstock, various magazines, scissors, glue stick, and an open mind. And then step number 2, pray, ask God to guide you as you work and lead you in the direction He wants you to go. And then you just cut out pictures from magazines. Like I have a selection of all kinds of magazines, like Decor and Newsy and The Economist and Canadian Living, those kinds of things, just a variety of magazines. And you look through them and pick images that resonate with you, that spark interest, or you're really attracted to for some reason. And when you do this, try not to plan, try not to think of an idea and then find pictures to go with it. Just take your time, look through the magazines, say, what is attracting me here? And then just tear out those photos and we can cut them out better later. So we can do the things that we're attracted to. Another separate time, I would suggest doing one that you cut out images that repel you or disturb you in some way. And that will give you more information about yourself and how you're feeling. So after you have a bunch of images to work with, glue them down onto your canvas or your cardstock, and then sit with that in front of you and ask God what he's wanting to reveal to you through the images that he led you to. What overall sense do you get? Is there something specific that is coming to the surface over and over with the images you've chosen? And sometimes I feel like these kinds of exercises where we're accessing a different part of our brain, the more creative side, it can access our self-conscious, our unconscious mind in an easier way, because I think our logical mind talks us out of things before we even allow ourselves to explore an idea or direction. So these kinds of artsy kind of ways of exploring what God might be saying to us it helps to build a well-rounded, how do I say this, like of practices, so that it's not all intellectual and mind-centered. It's heart-centered and it's feeling-oriented. And so you're getting your whole self when you do some of these variety of practices. So I'm just going to share with you some of the collages that I've made recently. So one was done in 2020 during the pandemic. And so I hope you can see this. These are some of the images that attracted me. So, beautiful places, rest. This is a baby duck under the mother's wing there. And so this came to mean like, it was comforting to me. It brought to mind the verses that God is like the mother hen that brings her chicks under her wing to protect them. And so I felt that care of God. And then, with the map and the beach scene, it's like the longing to travel, but knowing, of course, we can't. So that all revealed a lot to me, so that there's this whole bit of longing that I was dealing with, and also being secluded and kept and cared for came up. So that I thought that was really meaningful, and it was helpful for me at that time. And so this was one that I did with images that repel me or disturb me, and this was also done at the same time. So these are all, as clearly you can see, images of confinement and control. And so not being able to see in these ones, being confined in a place and not being able to get out. This one is somebody, taking control of a person. And so it's not that I was against any of the controls that the government was trying to use to control the virus, but I didn't like the feeling of not knowing. And I think we're all in that boat, but it's interesting to see it come out on paper. It's like, oh, okay, that's what I'm dealing with right now on the inside. And sometimes we don't even acknowledge those things. So I find those very helpful. And this is one I just did recently. And it is all about beauty and the gift of change and how you can change things up. Simple changes can make a big difference and bring contentment. And so as compared to the longing that I saw in that first collage, this is more a settled piece. It speaks to me that I've learned to be content, and I've learned to make learned ways to make my personal space more appealing to me, and the everyday extraordinary, to celebrate that instead of looking beyond and wishing for something that I don't have at the moment. So anyway, that this was revealing, and it was also super encouraging to see how things have shifted in my heart in the last year and a half, 2 years. So anyway, I hope those examples help. So I'm going to leave the directions below the video, and I hope you try this and gather some friends together and do it together, or do it as a family. This would be a great exercise to do with other people, and then discuss what comes up for you and have others pray with you through that process. So hope you enjoy your collaging.